It looks like we're live. So just waiting for the US session to open 2:30. So we'll see what the market's going to do. Whether it's going to continue the rally of this morning or it's going to have a little reversal. So yes, wait and see what happens. So it's looking at gold at the moment, and it's been pretty bullish so far today. You can see the price is starting to make some new highs, breaking out through 1838. So I'm really looking for a continuation of that, with price breaking up to potentially 1845 today. The other things I'm looking at as well, pretty much on the euro dollar. Again, we've seen pretty much a fairly substantial rise up. Let's look at the 15-minute chart. We can see here it's pushing into, again, new highs of the session with the US opening up. So again, potentially for this one to trade and wait for a pullback and then for the trend to continue on. So as always, it's just a waiting game for these trades. It's just waiting for price to move and see what happens. We can't force the market to move. We can't force the price to go down. It'd be nice if we were Elon Musk and go and tweet something about Bitcoin or Dogecoin, but unfortunately we don't have that power. We've got to wait and see for a price to come into a zone where we want to start buying or selling. So the main things I'm looking at the moment is euro dollar, cable, so GBP, USD, gold, FTSE. We've seen here a nice sort of push up with the US Open starting that session, as well as Bitcoin as well. Keep an eye on that one just to make sure that nothing dramatic is going to come in and give us any concern for our investments. So yeah, seeing here FTSE just literally had a big push up, a few points in the open of the US session, and now starting to come back down. This would be a nice one to get into a buy if price was to come back down again on this chart, down to just below the sort of 7,000 level. What's interesting on the hourly chart, again, my values here, because of the MetaTrader and the values they publish, not always the same as what appears on the charts, but the levels and the bars will be the same. Is if we can break through this previous point from a couple of days ago, then we can see another bullish trend. Obviously the big sell that happened beginning this week is now starting to reverse. We're now seeing some higher highs come into the market, and obviously the buyers are now returning, which is quite positive. We're getting a bit more positive news coming out of the US as well. So yeah, we're now seeing all of the momentum come back into the buyers. Just check news that's coming out today. Nothing major from the US that's going to give us any real concern this afternoon, anything forcing the price to jump around. Again, interesting with the FTSE at the moment is this level here, the 7,015, that could become a little resistance. So when the price broke down through going to the 11th of May, it hasn't been able to break back through that level here. So is that going to become a real barrier to price breaking out through? Just go back to a lower time frame, 15 minutes. Yeah, we can see there we've got a rejection of that price with that sort of high test bar. But I'm okay with that one. Normally we'll see that around the open of the US session with a lot more volatility, with price coming in. A lot of unknown with the traders in the US. So entering trades at pullback. Really for me, I'm looking for a zone where there's a bit of value. So if we look at especially on the FTSE, which is obviously the one I like to trade, we can draw a trend line in effectively, although I'm not a big fan of sloping trend lines. So here, if price was to pull back into this zone here, just below sort of the 20, between the 20 and the 50 moving average, I would potentially put a buy order, so for a break to carry on to the upside. Yeah, so someone just mentioned the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. I've read that one, and it looks like there's a lot more positivity coming out of the US. There seems to be a lot of jobs, a lot more buoyancy in there. But their concern around that is that the inflation levels may start to come up. So if we're seeing inflation concerns, then we could see a rally in gold. And if we look at what gold's been doing today, gold is definitely pushing up higher, getting up to this 1840 barrier. Again, zooming out to a higher time frame, just go look at the 1 hour chart. That's kind of a level where it's been sort of not breaking through this week. So potentially we could see a rejection at that level on gold. But again, just waiting. So just taking, again, a bigger picture on gold, if we look at the daily chart here, we see we had this double bottom previously end of last week, and it has rallied up, making quite a nice new trend. We've got higher highs and higher lows, and obviously we had the pullback in as of yesterday or a couple of days ago. Now we're starting to see the more momentum coming to the upside, so there's potential for gold to break through this level quite considerably and come back up to 1880. I'm almost tempted to get into a trade and just manage it and see what happens, but really there's nothing setting up for me at the moment. So we're looking for buys on gold. It's come down to a much lower time frame. You see we've missed that one there, it's pushing up. It's always a little bit volatile for me trying to get into these markets, especially when they're just starting to open and we see the volatility and the momentum coming in. So if gold does start to consolidate and pull back in the next probably hour or so, we could see a buy potential come in. Yep, gold is rocketing. We've seen that quite consistently when the US comes in, often has a big surge into gold. So if gold is going up, it's having an adverse reaction to the indices, so FTSE. Nothing really happening there. It's starting to pull off of that high. So here on FTSE, if we get a red candle, or if we get 2 red candles in a row, obviously that's going to show the pullback and then potentially come after that one. It's obviously a lot more prominent if we go down to the 5-minute chart. Again, we can see here we had a big rejection of that price. This price is now pushing up slightly higher. Again, just going to watch that one for now because it really is just not doing anything at the moment, not pulling back, and that really want that pullback to be able to get the next momentum going up. What else have we got going on? Let's have a quick scan to GBP USD. Nothing to get into there at the moment. Gold still going crazy. Almost makes me feel a bit of kind of an idiot for missing some of these moves. As we can see with gold especially pushing up to the higher highs, we had this kind of, just move this line down a little bit. As we can see here, we've potentially had that nice break. If it does pull back into 1838, there's definitely going to be a buy for me. And we can put the stop loss just below and literally trail that all the way up to potentially 1850. Just got to wait, and I hate waiting, but unfortunately as traders that's often the hardest thing to do, but also the best thing to do to get the right entry, because if we enter in now we'll be ending with a much bigger risk element, because we still want to have our target 1850, so we're looking at 10 points target, but we could be at 6 point risk, so therefore only like a 1-to-1. The other good confirmation here is that the RSI, which is one indicator I like to use, is still showing above 50. So anytime it is above 50, we're looking into buy signals. Again, if this pulls back down into the 50 level, then it's a good indication that we've got a place we can start buying again. What I'll do here is add the 50 line onto the RSI. Get a nice way just to visualize the price is in the buy zone. Okay, it's going to take potentially a few more candles to form, especially on a 15-minute chart. Let's just go down a level to the 5 minutes, see if there's a way of getting in on this one. If we're using the same criteria on the 5 minute, again, we'd wait for it to come all the way back down. I'm going to leave gold for now because it's going to be just enticing me in. Let's have a look at some of the Forex pairs. And euros just coming up. Got so many consecutive green candles here. We just really need that pullback to be able to get a bit of value in there to actually get into a trade. At the moment it's just going the wrong direction for me. Which is a real shame. Now, are there any key levels at the higher time frames that might want to sell this off? So where are we now? We've kind of had this rejection at 121.50 previously. It broke through, retested. So Yeah, potential that we could see a reversal on this one. Price come back down 20 or 30 points. So my entry typically on a lot of these is on the 15-minute chart, and I'll use the 1 hour for direction. Because of that conflict of decisions here, because we can see that we've got a resistance level creeping in. Let's have a quick look at dollar index. So the dollar has definitely been weakening over the past couple of weeks, and that rally, what's it looking at on a different time frame? Yeah, with dollar weakening and weakening more, that's going to give more impetus for euro dollar to keep going up rather than the actual euros getting stronger. It's more to do with the dollar getting weaker here. It's almost we used that level there, 121.40. We're 3 or 4 pips away from that. I'm going to go for it. Just a small. Actually, let's go 2 lots. So a 10 pip stop loss, and we'll trail that down. See what happens. Stop loss could be tighter. We could be just above that line, but I want to give it a bit of flexibility just in case it does break out and reverse back down. Again, looking at the higher time frame to confirm we are at that sort of peak where there was a sellers coming in and pushing it down. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's not a huge risk on this particular account. So only talking £150 loss, so not huge. Yes. Gold's just coming back up again. Again, it's a 5-minute chart, which again is quite volatile at the moment. Now, this could again be an opportunity to sell it short because it is kind of been rejected. It's been twice off that one. Not quite pushing up high enough to be able to sell this short at the moment. Do we have any levels of real resistance above here? So 1843 is our key level of resistance. Which, again, if we were being a bit more of a bearish, we'd sell at that point again with a stop loss at 1845 just to see what's happening. And obviously with gold, so the price of the dollar devaluing, that often has a correlation to being in gold and going down as well. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting one. Just for interest, going to look at Bitcoin while waiting for the others to come along. Bitcoin's been fantastic just to watch, not one I want to trade on because on these platforms the spreads are huge. But we now see that we've got a bit more of a buyers coming back into Bitcoin around this 50,000 level, which is really starting to break up. We could say we're into, especially on the hourly chart. Let's have a look at 4 hour. Yeah, we're starting at a double bottom again on the 4 hour chart, a rejection. We've got some key levels it's gone through, especially at this 48,000 level. It's not been able to really close below that level for at least a couple of weeks. So again, Bitcoin looking to do a sustained rally and start coming back up into this 55,000 level. Great one to watch. Really is interesting to see how Bitcoin reacts, especially some of the tweets that Elon Musk is coming out with. He does like to shake things up, whether it's good or bad. Again, FTSE's doing the same thing. It's rejecting off this level of 70.15 on my chart. But I think it would be a bit foolish to short that one currently, just because it's only had one previous touch that level, which is fairly at a weak level of resistance. I'd want to see 2 or 3 more touches on that one, especially on the hourly chart, to confirm we've got a stronger level of resistance to be able to short that level. We could still get the breakout. Let's go right up to it. Let's go 5-minute chart. You can see it's been rejected once, twice before on the 5-minute chart. I don't think it's going to be rejected a third time. I think it's going to come back down and break through quite aggressively, especially when the UK session finishes at 4:30 UK time, and then we've got the US continuing afterwards. We've obviously seen when they came online in the past half an hour, they've been fairly bullish and buying, especially in the stocks. Therefore, it's going to push the indices higher. So on this chart here, again, I really need to be seeing it come back down 4 or 5 points for buying in. Such a waiting game, this trading. Just got to sit around and watch these candles and bars go up and down all day. Again, this euro short has done nothing. It has broken through that level, but it hasn't gone close to the stop loss yet. It was a bit speculative, but we'll see. We might come off. We've got this news announcement coming out at 3 o'clock. Again, not a major one that's going to have a big effect. But it is the business inventories, so some inflation expectations. So we'll see. That's probably going to have a effect more on gold than it will on to the currency market. difficult not trying to scalp, because could go literally in here and get 2 or 3 points on FTSE, but I'm trying to get a move that's going to be a lot more consistent, trying to get sort of 30, 40 points throughout the end of the day, which isn't inconceivable because that's only a fraction of a percent of a move. But I don't want to jump straight into this particular buy. If I was scalping it, I'll be going the reversal, just a quick sell, because obviously it's going to fall back down a lot quicker than it's going up. But again, it is only moving 1 or 2 points, and to scalp that I'd have to go in such a big position. It could go against very, very quickly. Just look at what the spread is. So the spread is only 0.8. So there is that potential just to take 2 or 3 points out of it, but it's not my style of trading. I occasionally do that if I'm just trying to keep the account ticking over, to try and something to do in the afternoon, but it's not something I'll try and do on a live stream to try and encourage people to do. It's literally is waiting for that right opportunity. Now the area I'll be looking for will be something down here. If we can get price to pull back into that, then it's a buy. So interesting on this chart here is the RSI has now hit 70, which, so yeah, I am based in the UK. That's probably why I prefer the FTSE. I know a lot of people trade the DAX or the S&P 500, but I'm more interested in the FTSE myself. It's just one of those things, local time zone, and they always follow each other. So you can see here, RSI is now pushing back above into that 70 region, which in itself, a lot of people will be selling that because it's seen as an overbought indicator. But for me, it's more a case of there's more buyers now in the market. They're going to push the price higher and higher and higher. Let's have a look, see if I can find what the US is doing. So looking at the Dow Jones Industrial 30, again, it's pushing up a lot higher. It's broken out through the highs it's been making through that the rest of the day. A little breakout there. And looking down to 15 minutes, you can see it's just going to be surging higher and higher. That's why obviously the FTSE is doing this exactly the same thing. Maybe that we've missed the move. How's gold looking? Again, consolidating around that 1843 level, not breaking up through. Rejected off. What key levels am I interested in here? So on the 15-minute chart, really looking for price to come into 1833, 1832 to start getting a buy. If price comes back down there, I'll set a order above a previous red candle for the breakout. What I'll do, Just set a buy stop. So we've got 6 points of risk, 11 points of gain. Wasn't really ideal place to put it. Let's go and see what happens with that. Again, the reason for setting that buy stop order there is we've got this red candle which has been selling off, but if it closes here, that's a rejection of that current price, and therefore potentially the next candle coming in is going to be a green bullish one. And if it breaks through the previous high of that seller candle, we're obviously down back into the buyers in control of it, and therefore we could see price rocket up to, who knows, 1845, 1850. We've seen some huge swings on gold recently, quite easy to move $10, $20 on a movement. So that's why I've gone for a 11-point target, because that is quite realistic, especially when the US comes online. There's been some huge moves on that one recently. So that's now just waiting. So let's see how this resistant line holds up of 7,015 on FTSE. We'll see if that's going to actually hold it above it. Although price currently is below, it hasn't closed yet. So if it closes above it, then we're looking at that being a substantial level of resistance. Although that's on a 5-minute chart. We'll look on a 15. I guess it's literally sitting on that line at the moment. Which is nice. But I still think there's a way for this price to come back here, probably 10 or 15 points to get into a buy. So if you want to put into the chat any particular Forex pairs or markets you want me to have a look at while I'm here, it could be that they're obviously not ones that I would normally look at or trade, but I'm always willing to do a bit of analysis and see if there's any opportunities there. I know a lot of people like the Japanese pairs. I've tried to stay away from as much as I can, purely because a lot of the Japanese stuff tends to come out in the Asia sessions and I'm always asleep. But a lot of people do enjoy trading the British pound, Japanese yen. I can find the Aussie dollar. So what am I drinking? Pepsi Max raspberry flavour. Nothing too strong on a afternoon. So GU. US CAD. The loonie, the one I try and another one I stay away from. I've been burnt on the loonie far too many times, but it's always a good one to have a look at, especially with things happening in the US. So, yeah, cable, it's starting to push higher, but again, not something I want to trade at the moment. I really want to see a pullback. We're at this 141 level again. Now that's quite interesting because this level here, looking at a 4-hour chart, potential on a 4-hour chart, depending on how you interpret that, this could be seen as a head and shoulders, because we've got a high, a lower high, and a break between those two to obviously see a reversal pattern. And obviously when it did break, it did reverse down quite significantly. It's now retested that level. So this could now be our level of resistance for price to react and come back off that one. Definitely been long on that for a few. If you've been long on that for a few days, it would have been a good trade. Let's just go back to a longer time frame. So where would I have entered this one on a, if I was thinking several days ago? Now, we've got a downtrend, obviously a big sell from reversal. We've got this push off the 200 moving average. It's broken up through some recent levels, broken up through the moving averages. So for me, getting in on this one, I would have been buying in at the 120.40 level. Going back a few days, or about a week now, a 4-hour chart. Now, after the recent sell-off coming back down, yeah, it's not really showing much for a new uptrend on the euro dollar, but definitely there's been a big level coming in here, that sort of zone. Well, because could argue that would have been a consolidation and a continuation trend coming back down, and therefore price would have come back down to 1.2 level. Yeah, all interesting stuff. I think that's the good thing with trading, is that regardless of whatever chart you look at, there's always an opportunity to get on something. Now, someone did have a look at CAD, USD CAD, so go Looney. Bring in my template. Always start with the daily chart just to try and get where the overall trend is. So the overall trend for USD CAD is down, quite considerably down. Now what's interesting here, it has definitely become significantly overextended away from the moving averages. Now, although that's not a major level of concern, because we could see a break through 1.2. Are there any? Okay, so you have to go back to pretty much July, August in 2017 when price was this low before. So is that going to be a level of support? Potentially. Again, just using multiple time frames to get our entry points. So we've got the overall direction for the daily being down. We've got this level at 1.2, which could be a level of support. 15-minute chart. For me, it's too far overextended away from the moving averages, and therefore I wouldn't want to be shorting right now. But again, pull back into a significant level. 121.2. And that again will be a good level to start shorting from. We've got the RSI confirming that we are in a nice downward trend. It is, although currently 20, therefore oversold. But again, I'm not worried about that. As long as it's below 50, I'm happy. Regardless of where it is, I'll get into a sell. Gold has not come through our order yet. Just waiting and waiting and waiting. So what did happen at 3 o'clock on that news release? Consumer sentiment a bit low what they thought it was going to be. Considering the forecast of 90 coming at 82, so therefore sentiment isn't quite as good somewhere. Again, these are figures that I don't really understand. I'm not going to get too much bogged down by what they mean. There's nothing really significant that, as a major news events, nothing red that I'd worry about here. But again, the sentiment being less than what's expected is quite a concern. Okay, we're into gold. Hurrah! Finally. So if this bar closes on the 15 minutes, it's sort of 5 minutes for this bar to close. But if this bar does close and it's green, bullish, then again it's a good indication that the price is going to surge up in the next couple of hours. I always prefer when an order triggers that it just carries on straight away and just breaks out. But we're not quite getting that right now on gold. But the main thing is here we are seeing a good clear uptrend, especially for today, and even since the US opened, it hasn't done any major reversals, which often they do. They generally do a reversal of what the London session has done. So yeah, we are continuing with what we've seen the previous day. And again, if we go back out onto a 1 hour chart, gold definitely has been higher highs, higher lows, higher highs pushing upwards. So yeah, this account here is the FTMO challenge account. So I am in profit from where I was originally. There was a glitch on it last week, and I don't know whether I had a copy trader or a EA or something going on, which for some reason a trade entered I wasn't aware of, and it had a bit of a loss. So yeah, I was going to let this one run out and get a retake on this particular challenge. So how long do I stay into a trade? Often I try only being in a trade for a couple of hours, purely because I'm not waiting for a long swing trade. I don't want to be there for days and days managing a trade. I'd rather get in and out within a couple of hours. Now, depending on the volatility of the market and how things are going to break out, it could be that, let's say, we get a huge reaction to a news article or an event and prices carries on and we're taken out in a matter of minutes, or it could be going on. But as it's Friday, I will close out my trades regardless of where they're at the end of today. I don't want to have any trades running over the weekend, just because anything can happen. We're seeing some conflict in the Middle East. Who knows what's going to escalate over the weekend? There could be any number of issues coming out of that one. We could see any other news articles coming out. So yeah, best to close trades off on a weekend and just relax and not worry about them, not stress about them. So euro dollar did actually just pop into profit before going against me. I'm seeing, especially on a 15-minute chart, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're now to the 10th candle of green, so therefore that's definitely showing a lot more bullish than SARS coming in. Although what might be interesting, I'm not sure if anyone worries about divergence too much. But if this price gets rejected from here and pulls back down, we could be in for a divergence on some of the indicators and price, which would definitely be very interesting as a bit of a reversal. Again, because we're only 3 pips away from being stopped out, I don't think it's going to be a very winning trade for me today. It's just interesting to, again, get into a trade and see how it's going to pan out. Often they don't always work, and I'm always the first one to admit when they go wrong. But the main thing is with these trades is not over leveraging, not over risking, and making sure that the risk management parameters are in place. Only risking probably 0.25% on this trade, so not a biggie in the grand scheme of things. So it looks like from the chat there's a fair few of you going through various funding challenges or already funded with other prop firms, which is fantastic. I think it's a great way to be able to use their capital to make good profits rather than having to keep risking your own money, especially in uncertain times at the moment. It could be any number of market events come in and just wipe you out. Yeah, I agree in the comments that funding talent is more beneficial for your swing trader. They allow holding over the weekend and around news, which is definitely a beneficial one. Obviously, if you're doing the challenge with FTMO, you can do that during the week or the verification and the challenge phase. You can hold over the weekend. You can't do it on a funded account, which is a bit of a pain at times, especially on a swing trade, because there are some potential huge moves on some of the forex pairs if you want to be in there for 2-3 weeks. It's not a style that I'm really into. Swing trading for me takes a lot of discipline, a lot of nerve, because the price moves up and down so much. So I prefer to be into a trade, get in and get out. Only been in for potentially an hour or two and just see what happens. It's no fun having 2 trades open and both of them are losing. Again, only small amounts. Let's have a quick look at FTSE. Okay. As expected, we did get this bar close above our resistance line, but the next one has come straight back down. So it literally is rejecting that level. So I'm not going to be too concerned now. If I was to take a buy long position on FTSE, this level here is not really going to get in its way too much, I don't think. Especially we've got this kind of ascending triangle level. We're getting a bit of a wedge. Yeah, I think there's a comment there, the strange one, that you're allowed to hold over the weekend and use if you're on challenge and verification phases, but not actually in the, and then change the rules to a live account. You look at some of the other prop firms that are very, very strict on the rules. The prop trading, they're very, very strict on the rules, so you can't break any of the infringements. You can't trade oil, as an example. If you are in any of the phases, you can't hold anything over the weekend for crypto. They will actually invalidate your account straight away. I think the reason why they probably do give some more flexibility is just to get people through those phases and into the funded program, because then when you do get failed or get kicked out, you're then more incentivized to go and go back in again. You will start signing up for more challenges. So in their business model, I'm sure they've done the analysis and actually understand that people failing will always come back for more. Yeah, FTSE's now recovering again. If we compare that to the Dow Jones, almost mirroring it, where we've had this big push up through the open of the US session, where a slight pullback. Again, this candle here showing that price is going to continue up. Let's zoom in a little bit more. We've now got the buyers coming back in, so I can definitely see a big run this afternoon on Dow Jones. There's probably a lot of people out there trying to say sell, sell, sell based on the previous week, and price is rejecting everything else. But no, we're going to be looking for buys here on all the indices. So I've been trading for 2007, so 13, 14 years now. I first got started trading a long time. And I think as always, what's the biggest skill to learn from that one? Patience. It's just waiting for something to happen, because yeah, that's the hardest thing to sit on your hands as a trader, is being able just to take your time and wait. And I often find that some of the best trades I've had is where I've just set an order and left for the day and come back and it's hit the take profit. So gold appears to be rallying a little bit. Still not broken through to any profit, which is a real shame. Down to the 15 minutes of entry. So yeah, we ended on this green candle, which was fine. We've got a sort of low test bar type situation, so therefore price did break up through, followed by a nice bit of selling off. There, that's fine. We always see the consolidation of the moves doesn't always go straight up, and if again we look at previous candles, we had a big run up, we get consecutive red candles coming back down and then coming back in. So yeah, not too worried. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a veteran of trading, but I've been in it a long time. There's always things to learn, there's always things to actually just understand how things are reacting. And I think yeah, for me, it's just not panicking when things don't go your way. Yeah, totally agree. Sabotage trades where you sit in front of your screen all day. I think a lot of people just want to be in trades and being active and making profits, and if they're not, they just want to be just jumping into another trade. And although I've probably done a few trades here where I may not have done normally, just to get into something, place some orders. Again, it's on an account I'm not worried about. I'm not doing my live account today because obviously I'm concentrating on this. Now, although it's an FTMO challenge account, I'm just letting the days run out to get a retest on it. So I am in profit. I'm not worried about this account anymore. So that's why I can just place a few trades, and if they come off, great. If they don't, then I haven't risked anything to get into any worry. So yeah, being told to cut my losses on euro dollar. I agree, yes, it's probably not going my way. But it was such a small trade. I'm just not worried about this one particularly. It was kind of a reversal with a bit of an overextension. Because we're now getting later in the day, what, 3:30, only got, what, 3, 4, 5 hours left of the trading day. So regardless of what happens, these will be closed. If I was on a normal trading, I might let it run throughout the few more days of the beginning of the week. Again, with a stop loss in place, I'm not going to lose anything on it. So full-time trading is always that good question, is Would I class myself a full-time trader? Probably yes at the moment, because obviously the main income coming from trading. But I do prefer having a job as well and being able to trade. I won't say part-time, but sort of looking at the markets in conjunction with being in a job as well. Just because it gives that, takes the pressure away. As soon as you start having to rely on making money on a daily, weekly basis, the pressure is there and doesn't always work out. And I think as traders, we're always going to have conflicting opinions on when to get into a trade, when to get out of a trade. Now, for every trade, there has to be a buyer and a seller. Now, if I want to sell, someone's got to buy. So we're always going to have that difference of opinion. I think for a lot of it, it's making sure that the risk is managed correctly. And we've got a way of calculating that. We've got a way of making sure that our return to our risk is always greater than our expectation of losses. Yeah, so with this particular euro trade, if price comes down, I'll put a take profit in for now, just so I can see roughly where I'm expecting to pull back to. Now, if we get a pullback here into the 121.2, anywhere in that region, then that would give us more than a 1-to-1, probably a 2-to-1 reward to risk, which is okay. Always got to be greater than 1 just to make sure that we're always in a positive outcome. Now, yeah, I see a lot of traders out there getting 10, 20, 30. Now, if they want to go in with a 2-pip stop loss, then that's fair enough. Even a 10 pips, too tight for me. In these sort of trades, I suppose on a reversal, 10 pips is fine. If I was looking for a more of a continuation trade, then I would be looking at 20, 30 pips with a 30, 40, 50 pip return. So what's my strategy? Pretty much trend continuation. Although I've got a lot of EMAs on here, it's morely just to give an idea of where price may come to, as well as general direction. So I always want to trade with a trend, and although contradictory here, I've got a sell on euro which is going counter trend. But yeah, the majority of my trades would always be with the trend itself. So the EMAs I've got on here, got 3, 10, 20, 50 and 200. The 50 and 200 are key ones for me. That gives the key levels of strength. But I want to see price, if I'm looking for a continuation, is to come back into somewhere in the zone between the 10 and 20 and then bounce off somewhere in that region, then continue back up. And obviously that's always confirmation based on looking at momentum with other indicators, RSI. Although I don't trade off them, it's always just nice as a confirmation that says, okay, if the price is above 50, we're looking for buys, below 50, we're looking for sells. And it's really as simple as that. It's just literally waiting for that pullback and then go for it. A quick look at the FTSE again. So we drew that zone on here where I was looking for price to come back into to buy, which it pretty much did. If we look at the 5 minute, it didn't quite make it on that candle, which if it had pulled back in a little bit more, then definitely would have been a buy option here, and could have made a nice little trade on that one, but hasn't worked out on FTSE, just missed it, and that's fine. It will happen again. So this candle here is interesting. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Just about half an hour ago, 5 candles ago, we've got pretty much this cross, whatever you want to call it. So many different names for these patterns. But again, we've got a real indecision in where price is going. It hasn't really made its mind up. So we could see a bit of a consolidation now on the indices for the next potentially half an hour. Looking to break out to that level. So the other thing I'm always interested in with trading is looking for patterns and continuations. So there's nothing really pattern-wise on here. Obviously we've seen head and shoulders, we've got double top, double bottoms. So any of those patterns that might give extra strength to where the momentum of the market might go. Going to close some of these down. Just go back to the four that I prefer. Go. Bit of a mess. I don't often do this view, but it is good sometimes just to be able to see what's going on multiple screens. Especially zoom out, it saves having to keep flicking through between them all. So we can see now that the euro and British pound both being rejected these levels. 141 was rejected, and we've got price coming back down. We've got gold coming off those recent highs. Not what I wanted, but we're going to stop losses in a fairly safe place. FTSE is reacting quite nicely, going up. So risk-wise, normally risk 1%. The maximum I'll ever risk is 1% per trade. Often it's 0.5%. And depending on where I am in the day, if I'm feeling that there's a good trending day, then I will potentially scale in, start off at 0.5%. If I get a good trade, go back in at 1%. If I'm feeling it's not very good that day, I might start at 0.25%. But the main thing is that never risk more than that 1%, because as soon as you start risking over that, you get 1 or 2 trades goes against you, it's almost impossible to recover. We've seen it on so many times on the challenges with FTMO or with other prop trading firms. As soon as you get into that drawdown of 4, 5, 6%, and you've got a maximum of 10%, it's virtually impossible to recover from. Let's just put the FTSE into a 15-minute chart. So you can see we did draw that level of interest in just below that's the 10, so between the 10 and 20 moving average. It did bounce off that and come up quite strongly. But the thing I wasn't interested in there is the candle before that, the big red one. It's probably too big. If that was a smaller red candle, then it's easier to know that there's less sellers in the market at that point, and then we get back in and as the buyers come in. But obviously that was quite a big red candle, so potentially there could be some more sellers coming in at this level that prices come up to. Euro seems to be the only thing that's going my way at the moment. Just coming to profit. definitely worth just monitoring this one. It's always nice to show a trade that is actually coming as expected, but equally if I'd bought, it would just been so easy to say, okay, if I'm just going to buy and watch the price go up. Reversal's a lot trickier. Often price falls a lot quicker than it goes up, so you might only get 1 or 2 red candles before the buyers start coming back in. But it's interesting to watch and just see that. Let me take the, you can see price just getting into profit. This shows at £18, which isn't fantastic considering there's a £185 loss on gold. But the main thing for me is not risking too much in the trades and just making sure that the overall management of that is key. What's interesting here on all of these things I've got open is they're all now going into a bit of a decline. So euro dollar, British pound, so cable as well as gold are all starting to see these sell off on the last 3 15-minute bars, all rejecting those key levels that were sort of hitting previously. Indices doing the similar sort of thing, coming off some of the recent highs of today and starting to fall back down into these zones. So I'm probably going to wrap this stream up for today. Done just over an hour, which has been quite good fun. Just again watching the markets. I'll probably start doing these almost on a daily basis. I might try and do some of the opening of the UK session, maybe some of the closing US, as well as the opening of the US session as well. So I might try and get at least one live stream in a day. And you never know, it might come good. So it's been fantastic with the guys, with all the stuff in the chat. It's been really good to read your comments. And yeah, definitely do this again soon, and take care and good trading.